Alright, in this one I'm going to show you how to clean up Windows after an installation. So let's say you got a fresh clean install of Windows and you want to clean up a little bit before you use it, because we all know Windows comes in pre-bloated. So there is two ways to go about this. There is a scripted way, there is unscripted way. A scripted way is you download a script online. It's either going to be a PowerShell script or it's going to be an executable, and it's going to clean up the system for you. And there is the manual way where you go to manually and clean up the system, change the settings and make sure it's set up correctly and make sure it's all cleaned up. Now I don't really recommend the scripted way, because with the scripted way, first of all, you're running someone else's code, which could result in issues. First of all, you have to make sure that the person's code is always up to date, because if Microsoft changes something about Windows, then it could affect the way their code runs and might not run the way it's intended to run. Secondly, there has been some issues in the past where some of those cleanup scripts have been malicious. If you don't really know what you're doing and you just don't random script off the internet, there is a chance that it might mess up your system. It's a really small chance. Most of the scripts out there are fine, but there is still a chance nonetheless. So that's why I recommend doing them manually. I don't recommend using scripts unless you can read the script and know what's exactly doing. So anyways, let's get on with it. So this is a pretty fresh install of Windows 11. The first thing I usually do is updates. And the reason is because if you don't do it manually, they're gonna do it for you. And they're gonna do it in the most random times and the most annoying times. So the first thing you will wanna do is just make sure all updates are up there and all updates are already installed. All right, so I'm gonna download these and install them. Also, it's important to say, while it's installing updates, you can go ahead and install your drivers. Make sure you get your drivers from their official sites. That's how we can get the latest drivers. I know Windows can by itself install all the necessary drivers and get your system up and running, but more often than not, the drivers that Windows installs, for example, like your GPU drivers, is going to be a little bit out of date. And it could also just be a generic driver that's one size fits all. So if you really want the best out of your system, I recommend getting your drivers from their official manufacturer site. Like for example, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, go to the NVIDIA site, get the latest driver, same for AMD. Windows will install them for you, but I recommend you get the latest drivers for your exact components from their official sites. Alright, now it's done installing updates, we're gonna give it a restart. Alright, now we've got all the updates nice and installed, we've got all the drivers installed, and we have restarted. What I'm gonna do now is go to File Explorer, go to this PC, C drive. And I'm going to right click, Properties, Disk Cleanup, and I'm going to click Clean Up System Files. Now I highly recommend this if you upgraded from Windows 10 to Windows 11, or you've used the Windows Reset feature, which reinstalls Windows for you without having to have an ISO on a dedicated drive to reset it. What this is going to do is going to clean up temporary system files, and this can include previous Windows installations. It can include temporary files, cache files, and it will also include updates which have not been removed. Because sometimes what Windows does is whenever it downloads a new update, it will reserve the old update just in case you need it or just in case the new update is broken. But if your system works just fine, you can go ahead and delete the updates. I don't see the Windows updates in the cleanup tool, that's because there was no any updates to clean up. But if there were to be, then you will find them there and we'll clean them up for you. So go ahead and click OK. All right, now what we're going to do is Bloatware cleanup, which is clean up all the unnecessary programs and things that Windows went ahead and installed for you, even though you didn't ask for. For example, now we click on the Start menu, we're going to see all the stuff that Windows just pre-jammed into Windows 11. For example, you have TikTok, Prime Video, Instagram, Facebook, Disney Plus, all just pre-installed there, even though that you never asked for. So we're going to go ahead and uninstall those one by one. Alright, so now we've got this cleaned up, there is still more stuff to be removed. So now we're going to search add or remove programs. Click enter. And there'll be a lot of stuff here also to remove. Alright, now that you've uninstalled everything that you don't need, we can go to features, add optional features. And here we'll find more stuff to remove. For example, Internet Explorer mode. Okay, so pretty much the only three things I'm going to keep is Notepad, WordPad, and PowerShell. And if you never know what PowerShell is and you don't really use PowerShell, then you can also remove that. Alright, so now we're gonna click on more Windows features. And most of this is already disabled, but if you have like Windows Professional, you might have a lot more stuff. Just make sure that to get rid of the stuff that you don't need. If you don't know if you need it or not, just keep it enabled, because it's not gonna be that big of a difference. For example, I know I don't need work folders, so I can get rid of that. I know I'm not gonna be using SMP on this machine, so I can get rid of that. I know I won't be using media features, at least I'm not gonna be using Windows media features, so I'm gonna get rid of that. This Windows is going to be in a virtual machine, so I'm not going to use any printer with this machine. I'm not going to connect it to any printer, so I don't need all these print services. Net framework is important to have, so you should always keep it there. This also could be useful. So other than that, then the rest is personal like preference. Click OK. It's going to go ahead and uninstall them. Now it's going to ask you for restart, so we go ahead and restart. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to adjust the system settings so we optimize them as much as possible. So go to search settings. We're going to start from the top, display, make sure this is running at the highest refresh rate. So go to advanced and make sure it's the highest. For me 60, but if you have a higher refresh rate monitor, just make sure it's selected. I'm going to click power and battery. And if you're on desktop, I recommend changing this from balanced to best performance. This will make sure your system is trying to be as fast as possible regardless of power consumption. And if you are using desktop, then you don't really need to worry about battery life, so I recommend changing it to best performance on desktop. So we go to storage. It will show that it's temporary files and whatnot. You can clean up if you want to. Alright, now I'm going to go to gaming, and in gaming click on expose game bar and make sure this is turned off. It causes a lot of issues for people, and most of the time it does more harm than good. Captures. This says your PC does not meet the requirements, but if it's enabled, make sure it is disabled. This is Windows' way to record your gameplay, but so badly optimized and inefficient, you might as well just use better alternatives such as OBS. Game mode, you can keep this enabled. What this does, it will make sure that most of your CPU power is allocated to the game that you're currently playing rather than the background task. So this is fine to keep on. Privacy and security, go to general, make sure all of this is disabled. Inking and typing, make sure this is also disabled. Diagnostic, make sure this is disabled, and there is no way to completely disable this, just make sure it sends required data only. Everything here is off, because I've already turned them off in the Windows installation. And then you can click diagnostic data. Alright, one last setting I'll want to change. Now this is optional. It's UAC, User Access Management. And this is the prompt, I'll show you. Once you click OK, this is this prompt. So when you open an application, it will ask you, do you really want to open the application? And so for power users, and if you only really have one account on this PC, and you really hate this dialog, you could disable it doing this. So now it will never show up. Go to taskbar settings, and get rid of all the dumb stuff. Like, why would I need search here when I can just click here and click search? So we'll get rid of search. I don't use task view. Get rid of widgets and get rid of chat, and then you can unpin these manually. And that's about it. Alright, so this is about as clean as it can get without using any scripts and without getting really geeky and modifying like system files. And I recommend most people to not go beyond this point, because once you start modifying like Windows system files, what's going to happen is every time it updates, it will regenerate these files. If you try to disable some essential Windows features, like if you try to disable Windows Defender, even though if you go out of your way to like geek out and use some scripts and disable Windows Defender and whatnot, when Windows updates, it will re-enable it. So for most people, should be just enough. Anything more than that, then you just put in a lot of effort until the next update comes, and then you will have to do it all over again. Unless you have this automated script that will clean up Windows every time it updates. And the performance difference is very negligible, especially if you have a very recent PC. You're most likely not going to feel the performance difference. So this is as far as I will get recommending you to clean up your system. So that's about it for this video. I might make another video similar to this, but more tailored on how to clean up Windows after you've used it for a while, because a lot of the times Windows does not really clean after itself, and you'll find a lot of like junk files left here and there and accumulating. If you ever use Windows for a while without resetting your PC, you'll realize that your disk usage get higher and higher, even though you don't really have any more programs than you used. So I think I might make a video about that. So if you want to see that, make sure to subscribe. Other than that, then thank you for watching. Hopefully this wasn't informative, and I'm gonna peace out. See ya.